Hey guys, Fourfinger here, and here is the updated version of my weapon infusion build that I promised. This was the first build that I made in Dawn of the Hunt, and I've improved it quite a bit for the 0.3. Now keep in mind, we do not have the patch notes, we don't know what's going to be changed and nerfed, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be safe. And why do I think that? Because even if they do decide to nerf the Amazon, I highly doubt they're going to touch the infusion stuff, because the infusion stuff is mainly being used as a support stuff, like to proc exposures, to make those exposures stronger and stuff like that. Only people who actually played my build used it as a primary damage source. So for those reasons I think it could be safe, but we don't know. There is a bug that I'll explain later on with the weapon infusion, how it works, but for now I just want to know that this build can work on a really low budget. It can get you all the way from maps to like tier 4 content with ease, with really low investment. And if you guys want, I can also make a full leveling guide once the patch notes are out, so you guys can see like what you should level with and when you should respec into the crossbow part. So let's just jump into the changes one by one. Okay, so let's start things off by explaining how the build actually works. And as I said before, Infuse Weapon is going to be our main source of damage. And there's currently a bug with this ability, and the way this should work is for every projectile fired, it should consume 1 infusion. But what happens is, if you fire only 1 projectile, it will consume 1 to empower 1. If you do 2, it's still going to work fine. But if you do any higher amount than 2, it doesn't consume more than 2 infusions. So the maximum amount consumed is 2, but it's going to empower every single one. So if you take stuff like galvanic shards, which fire 6 fragments, and each one of those fragments is considered a projectile, it's going to empower all 6 of them while only consuming 2. And that's how the whole thing comes together. And because this also has a really good attack speed modifier, it's firing super fast. So per one clip of the galvanic shards, you're looking at 42 weapon infusions, because each one is going to proc 6, you have 7 of them in one clip. That's 42 weapon infusions every time you do this. 42, it's really strong. And the way we enable the charge sustain is by using stuff like Vault Protector, which gives you 25% chance to gain a power charge on crit. You can also corrupt this to go to 30% on max roll, I think. And then you use stuff like Serpent Seg, which doubles the charge generation. And then you can also, if you don't want to use this amulet, I think they've added a new soul core, which is having 50% chance to gain a additional power charge. If you want to use this instead of the amulet on the weapon, you can, but you will lose some damage. On the other side, you might get more defenses, that's totally up to you, but it's nice that we have new options right now, which is great. And once you do generate, how do you generate those charges? So you go into the map, you're going to kill some stuff with galvanic shards, this will proc shock, and once we do proc shock and kill something, it's going to activate Herald of Thunder, and that Herald of Thunder is going to chain with the voltaic mark, and every time it hits something, there's 1 in 4 chance to actually proc the charge generation. And then we keep firing, and we are going to proc the potential, which is going to consume those charges, and then further proc the Infuse Weapon. So that's the whole idea when it comes to mapping. And also the Infuse Weapon can generate charges itself, because if it does crit, it can also, same like Herald of Thunder and Voltaic Mark, it can generate charges. So for mapping, that's the sustain. While for bossing, you want to go to the boss, use 1 sniper mark, just to start the first few infused weapons, and then proc it with the, what's called the ferocity, and then the infused weapon is going to generate charges, while galvanic charge is going to consume charges. And that's going to make an infinite loop, where you have enough charges to keep firing 6 per every single shot. That's the main idea behind the build, but let's just go and jump into the skill gems next. Okay, so now that you know how the basics of the build work, let's just quickly go over the support gems. Like for Infused Weapon, you run Primal Armament, 25% more, 30% more. We are capping crit by, obviously, we are Amazon, we get the crit from the accuracy, so by using stuff like Bullseye, we boost our accuracy, get the blind from the tree, you have it on this node, so you're pretty much always blinding anyway because you fire super quickly, so 15% more crit, 15% more crit damage bonus, and then you have pinpoint, which makes it really easy to cap crit. It's also possible if you want to go full, invest way more into crit, like on a helmet, maybe get more on the tree. It's highly possible to drop the pinpoint to get way more damage, but that's, like I said, super endgame stuff. Right now I'm doing this on a 10 divine version. I did it on purpose just to see how this build can perform on day 2 or day 3 in the league. So for now, definitely running like this is fine. Later on, you can drop it. Galvanic Shard, this is our support skill that's used to empower and actually proc the infused weapons. So Martial Tempo is actually 20% more damage on this. We have Ferocity, and the only reason we use this is, like I said, for bosses. Because on bosses you use Sniper Mark once, you hit the boss and crit it, it generates the Frenzy Charge, you consume that Frenzy Charge to proc the infusions, and then infusions will generate power charges which you will consume with the potential. That's the whole idea. Like I said before, you have nimble reload, which makes the reload really quickly. As you can see, I drop out, it's already filled. That's really always nice to have. And we obviously have cold exposure because we are consuming power charges. This will be doing mostly cold damage, so this is going to help us reach that exposure, res capped to 0. We just want to remove all of that from the boss, right? We have hypothermia, which is also going to do like 34%. Like we said before, we have 20% from the exposure, that's 54. You have 12% here, which is going to be 66%. And then for the last 9%, you can get corruption on the gloves for cold, which is super cheap because those gloves are not usually used by cold builds. So it should be really, really cheap to get, as long as this build doesn't like pop off. But yeah, you get the idea. For the supports here, persistence, heightened curse, focus curse, this is just the one I like to run right now. Sniper mark with the profusion and arcane tempo makes it quicker to cast, extra charge possible to also by using the sniper mark. This not only starts the loop, it also shocks the boss, because the frenzy charge is actually going to proc the lightning infusion instead, which will proc shock in most of the cases, because we also have some chance to shock on the tree and decent amount of lightning damage, so that's also really good extra side effect. And the reason I went for Solar Orb instead of the Lightning Orb, because we attack super quickly. If we use the Lightning Orb, we're just going to proc it too fast, because every lightning skill you use is going to activate the Lightning Orb, and we do not want that. So, and we want to keep the Rage. And if we just use the Solar Orb, it's always going to be there until it runs out of time, which is always going to sustain our Rage, which is obviously, as you can see, buffing the damage on the Infuse Weapon. Next thing, this is going to be our map clear, and it's going to be Herald of Thunder, the pretty usual stuff, Cold Infusion, Glaciation, Ice Bite, Embiter, and then you can use Cold Pen, Long Shot, whatever. I think all of those are fine, it's not really a big deal. And then we have Custom Freeze, which is going to run Voltaic Mark, Innervate, Magnified Effect, Reach, and Impetuous, and this is going to make a chain reaction in the maps. Like, you're going to hit something with the Infuse Weapon, which is cold. That cold damage is going to proc the Voltaic Mark just before dying. Then this mark is going to shock, which is going to proc Herald of Thunder, which then can sometimes freeze if you have enough damage, and proc it again and make this big loop where everything gets destroyed, as you are going to see or already saw in the showcase. Not sure where will I put it in the video, but yeah. Wind Dancer, obviously really good to have, and this is the only point of the build that you kind of have to get early. You don't have to, like, the difference right now, my evasion is 57%, without the Wind Dancer is going to be 49%, obviously. So it's not a big difference when it comes to defenses, but if you want to run it, you kind of want to get the Spirit against the Darkness. This is not really that expensive early on in the league if you just get the Spirit. Like, obviously you don't need the extra damage of cold, this is not a requirement, but just getting 10 Spirit and then hitting those 3 nodes is going to give you just enough to run all the setup that you need. If you don't have it, just don't run Wind Dancer till you can afford it. It's really not a huge deal early on. And then Emergency Reload, I pretty much just use it on bosses. Sometimes I just start things off like really strong, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you just refresh it and do it again. Or most of the other times, depending on how long it takes to kill the boss, you can use this as the call, because you have Murderous Intent. You can do this when the boss is on like 10% and it's just going to use the Culling Strike and kill it. Which is... oh, actually on Unique it's at 5%, okay. Still, it's not bad to have at the end. And then for the last slot you have a lot of options, which I haven't really decided what I want to do for the last one. You can either put that cooldown recovery shield and run Blink on the weapon switch, or you can even use Shield Charge. You can use some extra buffs. It doesn't really matter at this point. Build is really already strong. Doesn't really need much on top of it. And if you do decide to, like I said, to drop the amulet, you can also make yourself a lot tankier. So it's really up to you if you want more damage or tankiness. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the skill gems. Let's just go into the gear next. Okay, so yeah, talking about gear, as I already said before, you do want to run Vault Protector, which is going to be really cheap in the first days of the league. I think I had like 10 of them, trying to like keep corrupting them to 30, and then I realized you don't even need to have like higher than 25. I think it's actually better just to run like 3 dual sockets instead, which is going to be super cheap. While this amulet, Serpent's Egg, was 1 divine at the start, then it went to 2 divines, and I think it stayed 2 divines there forever. Like, for the longest of time it was just 2 divines, which shouldn't really be that hard to get. It is a bit rarer at the start of the league, because I think it's like tier 2, if I remember quite right. But after like 2 days in, there's like at least 40 on the market, which shouldn't be a problem to obtain. Outside of that, for crossbow, you're pretty much looking to get at least 8% or maybe 8.5% crit, as much as possible flat damage on the top, if if you can also get increased elemental damage, that should be huge. Like the weapon that I used at the league start, I think was, to just show you, was this one. It was really cheap, honestly, and it's not crazy, but it was really good. It has crit damage bonus. This is basically the stat that you want to, just instead of the leech, you want the attack speed. This is pretty much all of the stat that you want, just tier 1, obviously, if you can afford mirror tier stuff. Just instead of leech, you want the attack speed. That would be the ideal weapon. So that's what you want for your crossbow, but obviously just get what you can afford, prioritize crit, then flat, and then increase tele and crit damage bonus on as like extra on top of that. For the helmet, you want to get as much ES as possible, because that ES is going to give us evasion as well with the subterfuge mask. If you can get life on top of it, it's obviously really good for the health pool, but that's not too important at the start of the league. Like, even if you run like way lower defenses, you should be fine. For the rings, ideally you want to get as much res attributes and then cold or physical damage flat with life. You can also get some accuracy if you're lacking crit, or you can even get like some of the max life, which is always good, like I said before. So there's a lot of choices to be had here, but yeah, it's not that important. And if you want to run this node, which I think is really good, you want to get like leech on either a weapon or one of the rings, because this is going to make physical attack damage leech life, but then this is also going to make it leech ES instead. So this is really good defense-wise, and then this makes the elemental damage work on it as well. So all LE damage will be leached as ES, which is really good, because then even if something goes through all of these ES, you can press potion and keep attacking, and both of those will recover and make a solid defense layer. With that being said, like I said, those gloves are mostly used for that. You want to pretty much put the 20% increased magnitude. This is a really good socketable you can put in here. You don't really care too much about lightning damage to attacks, because we do not have too much lightning pen. Only thing that we have is this thing here, and then everything else is going to be reduced by the boss damage. So you're mostly taking it for int, lightning res, and for the conversion to ES. So those are really decent. For the belt, you're looking at like resistances, strength, and life. Later on, you might want to get 3 charms as well and go Headhunter when you can afford it, but that's like the endgame version, which I can also make if you guys need. And then for boots, movement speed, ES, life, rarity, whatever. Also, the more currency you have, the more rarity you can put into this build, because right now I think I'm running like, what, 40% with like this really low investment. Which should be, yeah, 44%. You can really easily get rarity on the rings and the helmet, while still keeping the attributes and resistances, which is going to be like, I think I had 100% on the league start, like on the Dawn of the Hunt. I just wanted to make a kind of cheaper version and see how it performs. So this is 10 divines, but the economy is really like in the shambles right now. Like 1 divine is like 3k exalts, and this is not really what you're looking at the first 3 days in the league. It should be a lot better, honestly. My gear was a lot better than this in the first 3 days. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the gear. Only thing I didn't account in those 10 divines is the jewels, which are pretty simple. For this one, we don't need pen. Like, we just need the ES and crit, and I think we're even crit overcapped. I don't think we even need crit. So you can get like maximum energy shield. You need one with the 2% mana on maximum kill, because when you do proc the chain reaction from Herald of Thunder and cast on freeze, it does consume a lot of mana. So having this 2% helps out a lot. And then any kind of like magnitude of shock, crit damage bonus, cold damage is obviously useful. This jewel, like I said before, you just want to get 10 spirit and that's it. You don't care about anything else. Obviously, if you can get extra damage as cold, that's great, but it's not a requirement. It just helps out a bit, which is nice. So that's pretty much it for the gear. And as I said, this is all 10 divines outside of the jewels. Jewel-wise, you can get like a lot of different things. Evasion, ES, and this should be like 4 or 5 divines early on in the league. So yeah. That's pretty much it for the gear. Oh, sorry. For the jewels, not for the jewels, for the charms and stuff like this, it's nothing crazy. If you can afford like Rite of Passage, which is really expensive, it's going to be the best one. I would say is the Stag. It gives you extra damage as lightning, which then also gets converted to cold with the Embitter, and then makes the whole interaction even stronger. But that's like, get Onslaught one, get the Rite of Passage, and then one for the freezing, and you're fine. If you can't afford it, those 2 early on for stun and freeze immune are more than enough. Yeah, let's move on to the skill tree. So when it comes to the skill tree and the Ascendancy points, 6 points that are must are going to be Critical Strike, Elemental Infusion, and Infused Avatar. You want to pick this one first, then this second, and this third. And you do not want to go crossbow until you have, like I said, all 6 of those, Walls Protector, Serpent Sag, and 100% crit. Before that, you can still use it, like, but don't do it on crossbow. You can use it on like Gas Arrow, which should be in my leveling video if this doesn't get nerfed. With that being said, for the last one, you have like 3 options that are all good, or actually 4 if you want to go for the accuracy one as well. If you want more damage for bosses, I would go for Predatory Instinct. This is going to boost your damage even more, but I think it's not really needed. Leech is best defense-wise, 100%. I've tested like a lot of different like options. I think this is really good. And if you do not really like the Leech, you can get the Stalking Panther, because we don't have any evasion on the chest anyway, we don't lose anything there, but then you can get like full evasion on gloves and boots, and you are going to have like at least 70 to 75% evasion, which is going to be really decent, but I think Leech is just a lot better. That's just my personal preference. When it comes to the rest of the skill tree, like, reason why you want to path through this is really OP for this build, because not only are you getting more chance to proc it on bosses with the sniper mark, it's also going to make this whole interaction for clear a lot stronger, because more freeze build up and shock chance. Pretty usual stuff. You go for the crit nodes, you get some movement speed stuff everywhere you can, so movement speed here, movement speed here, movement speed here, to make yourself a bit faster. This is also really good. Crit strike, and then magnitude, obviously really strong, and then everything else is quite the usual, nothing crazy when it comes to the skill tree. Overall, this build, like I said, can be amazing thing to start on the maps, because you can afford it, like I said, on day 2 really easily. You should already have like all 6 points when it comes to the Ascendancy, and unless the bug gets fixed, I think this can be like one of the best builds to clear all of the content with. And then after you get like more currency, you can switch to like Lightning Arrow, and then, you know, do those fully juiced daily maps and stuff like that. That's at least what my plan would be if I don't play Druid. But if the Druid comes out, I think it's just better to play Druid for the content, but we'll see what happens. If you guys, as always, have any questions, hop on Discord. I'll be happy to help. I'll give you like tips if something isn't working and how to fix it. This build, like I said, I had it before on the Dawn of the Hunt, but I think it's way stronger in the current version. So yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for watching.